So, Antonio, you are an incredibly successful entrepreneur. You have 3.5 million subscribers on YouTube, and you're basically breaking Skool right now with two of your communities. They're both on the discovery page. They're some of the most engaged communities on the platform. One is about men's style, hence me dressing up for today. One is about fragrances. You can't smell me, but I'll just pretend that you can smell me. But I'm really curious, like, when was the first time that you got a piece of clothing, like, properly fitted just for you? And how did that make you feel whenever you put it on?
It made me feel like a $1,000,000. And so my first experience with that, I was a young lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps, and I got my actual fitted uniform at the Marine shop. And I remember putting this thing on. You get a sword. You are in a uniform that is is associated with one of the, the premier fighting units, in the entire world. And so you're part of that. And it was wow. They just fit like a glove. And you realized it wasn't nearly as uncomfortable as you thought it was going to be. Because usually on a well-fitted jacket, it has high armholes. So it allows full freedom of movement of the arms. And so it busted some assumptions. In addition, I realized every time I put that uniform on, all of a sudden, my level with the ladies shot up, or my ability to talk with them, all of a sudden their interest in you. And I think this applies to any man that puts a little bit of, effort into his presentation and image. And this is what I try to teach guys, is just simply style is a tool for you to get what you want out of life. I honestly don't care about suits. I know I appreciate you dressing up for me, Matt, but day to day, I dress casually. I'm a father I got 7 kids. I'm busy and active with just my community. I get stains on my clothes. So my uniform is usually a default button down blue shirt that can take stains. But it is something that I know that there are so many men out there that could do so much better if they just matched what's up here in their head and in their hearts with putting forth a little bit more into their presentation and image. And it doesn't take much. It's like a chain, if you can imagine. And it's one of the links, and you're already really strong on your effort and your experience and your enthusiasm for the work you do. And this link of style, I just want to make stronger. So it makes the whole chain stronger, and you're able to achieve your goals.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we live in an age of kind of over optimizing everything. Like, everyone wants, their fitness to be super dialed in, their dad to be dialed in. And style, I kind of feel like, is one of those things. And I'm super guilty. Like, anyone who knows me, like, this was hanging up. It just came back from the dry cleaners because we got back from a wedding. And when you're talking about the tailor-fitted suit, I'm like, bro, that's me. Like, this is something like just off the shelves. Like, I can barely like lift my hands up. But style is something that seems to be like totally neglected. And there's a lot of talk about self-image and self-signaling and how, you want to kind of like raise your mindset up. And I never really thought about it until you said it, where style can be, it's like putting on the superhero suit. It's like your identity shifts. And that's always been like a big part of even like storytelling in the culture. But I don't know, it's been lost along the way, where we don't wear uniforms to work anymore.
Where do we wear uniforms? If you played any sports, imagine if you're going out to play a game and, you're going out there, but your jerseys have been replaced with ballerina tutus. You're going out there on that soccer field, football field for you guys, and you feel a little bit different. Now, you're the same person, yet your uniform has changed. And so clothing, and there's a whole science field of this called enclothed cognition coming out of Northwestern University. The classic study is they had 2 groups of students. A couple hundred of them wear what they thought to be painter smocks. The other couple hundred wore what they were told were doctor jackets. Then they took a test, and the ones that were wearing doctor jackets significantly performed a lot higher than those that were wearing painter smocks, because they were just more attentive. The clothing kind of put them in a mindset. And I think this is something I know my sister taught me. She would always get dressed up when she was sick. And I was like, why would you do that? And she's like, well, I'll get compliments all day, and it just makes me feel better when I'm not feeling good. And I'm like, if guys understood that, because there are days that, you're nervous, you're not feeling great. Well, you know what you can control? The way that you put yourself together and the way that you present yourself. And you'll at least get a compliment that you look good, even if you fall flat on that presentation. But usually you don't. Usually, in fact, you can even wrap that in. What I like to talk about is operant conditioning as well. And I do this with fragrances. We actually have a set of fragrances that talks about how you can wear and condition yourself to scent, to feel a certain way. And it's funny because we do this, like, I don't know what you're drinking, but I've got a strong cup of tea. For a lot of people, coffee, and the smell of coffee wakes them up. But if you examine the brain, you'll notice when somebody smells coffee, who's a coffee drinker, it'll already start firing the parts of the brain before the caffeine has gotten into their body. And it shows that you can condition yourself to certain smells to feel a certain way. And I just love these hidden tools because let's face it, we all want a competitive edge. We all understand the importance of systems, especially when you're online, how easy it is when you put on the right clothing, you put on the right fragrance, you're in the right state of mind. Even if you're not feeling good, you've kind of stacked the deck so that you're going to show up and give your best, that you're going to have a great day. And of course, we look at our heroes and sometimes they go in a different route. Let's look at Alex Hormozi. The guy does not wear a suit. He used to. He does not seem like, but he does kind of have his uniform.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. People think that is, I get it why he wears what he wears. But if you were to see him like with his haircut in a suit walking down the street, you probably wouldn't recognize him. But now, because he's chosen this entire look, and he really would stand out. And I've seen him get up on stage, give presentations. It's like he's almost that whole, that nose thing is almost like
it's the superhero getup, isn't it? It's like what is Superman without the Superman suit? Like what is Spider-Man without the Spider-Man costume? It's like it's become part of the brand that's consistent, it's recognizable, and it differentiates him massively, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah. And I really just like it. Again, suits are cool, but if you are in the street style, casual style, goth, Western, whatever it may be, I say just own it, find it. I grew up in West Texas. So Western style is dear in, it's like I have cowboy boots. I don't have a hat, but I do have some, other things. I like Wrangler jeans. So I think for a guy to be able to own that, there's a guy that owns a team called the Savannah Bananas. He's based out of Savannah. His name's Jesse. And, but they have taken the baseball team by storm because he sells entertainment, not baseball. Like his baseball team, they're good, but it's about filling the seats. And he's sold out for like the next 10 years. The guy, he gets butts in seats and it's all about entertainment. But his look is a yellow tuxedo with a top hat. And yes, he stands out, but he understands, especially early on, that was key for him to be able to walk into a room and everyone to know who he is and to understand what his message is. And I think Hormozi would agree with this. It's better to be different than to be the best. And so if you're surrounded by people that are casual dressers, well, if you just dress up a bit, you can stand out. If you're around people that always wear suits, but you can dress casual in a way that you just look like you're the CEO coming out of Silicon Valley, then do it, own it, and have fun with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. At the last Hormozi One Day for the Skool Games winners, Sam Ovens, the founder of Skool, he was talking a little bit about this, and he says, it's so funny whenever I hop on a meeting with like some really important business people, and they see I've got really long hair, and I'm wearing like a really casual, navy jumper or whatever, and it's just like it's almost like an opening imbalance where it's like, whoa, like this isn't the expected normal kind. And so whenever you can be differentiated like that, I think it's super powerful. Your influence on style, was there any masculine influence in you growing up? Was there any father, grandfather, or where did that kind of voice come from in your life?
I think I just looked at history. That was something I really didn't have any personal examples. My father wasn't around. My stepdad wasn't a style example. I grew up, in a trailer park in West Texas. Yeah, we had horses and kind of a ranch, but most people dressed very much down. I never got into the dandy style, and a lot of this East Coast stuff, the whole trad stuff just never was my thing. It was the military. It was looking at simply the effect of uniforms. I think it was just seeing the power of uniforms. I mean, if a naked man runs into a room and says, "Get out," people are going to call the police and think he's crazy. But if a fireman does the same thing, we defer to that uniform. We don't ask for his credentials. We realize, let's get out of here because this guy, his uniform says everything. And I think me understanding that in the military and seeing it firsthand, and then realizing that it's the same in the civilian world. Like it's all about this nonverbal communication and this messaging we do with our bodies, to just be able to better leverage that, I think is something I realized most men could benefit from.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a study where they put the same guy on the street, stopping people and asking, hey, do you have any spare change for my bus ride home? I forgot my wallet. And they dressed him up as a homeless man. And then the second time they dressed him up, suit, briefcase. And the guy in the business suit just made like so much money. People were so receptive, so open.
Yeah.
And the only thing that changed was the style. Have you thought about, or have you noticed or identified why so many men are dressing down beyond like, it's just a culture, that's the way that it is? Do you think in any way there could be like a deep-seated not feeling confident or maybe afraid to take that step and afraid to level up in that way? Is there anything going on there that you've seen?
Well, culture has a lot to do with it, because if you go over to Hong Kong or you head over maybe to downtown London, you're going to see a lot more people dressed well. That being said, it is something that we are products of our environment, and we do fall into fashion trends. Usually people aren't making their own clothing. So we go into box stores. What is available for us? It's what's being offered there. Most of us buy our clothing from there. So that's had a big effect, just the environment we're in. I think some of the best dressed men are actually the most frugal, who go to thrift stores, who actually put together pieces from different time periods. But it is something I do think you have to buck the trend. I mean, most guys are focusing on what they think is important, and I get it. They're focused in on relationships. They're focused in on money and making that money. And they don't really see the connection. Like, well, if I have enough money, if I have enough wealth, if I have enough power, if I, treat her well enough, why does style even matter? We're pretty logical. And I can see that in there. I think what style is it's right there next to it, and it just simply enhances it. In the same way that salt enhances a meal, and it brings out the flavor, I think style can do that it's not going to necessarily make you money, but it can enhance the money you're making, because all of a sudden it gives you that edge. In the same way you said about he was asking for some change. Well, when you walk into a bank and you're asking for a loan, if you look the part of a success, at least in the mind of that banker, he's more likely to get, of course, he's going to check everything, and you've got to have those parts, but everything being the same, it is going to play into your favor when you look the part of a success and you, again, stack the odds in your favor. When you're talking to a woman for the first time, it'd be great if she could see what a good person you are. But usually what she's looking at is, how are you dressed? How are you presented? Where are your hands? Are you a threat? How do you smell? A lot of guys forget that, it's not just the fragrance, but it's also your breath, your oral hygiene. All these little things I try just to, hey, we can control this, and let's just make sure we put our best foot forward.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'll give you a very silly example. So when I first started off in business, I was working as a bicycle messenger, and we had a very specific type of uniform. It was very kind of rugged, and we had like the big backpacks, and you were kind of like walking down the street and you felt powerful. This was not a good look for if you were trying to win clients. And so I had this big, massive, like clunky, I think it was like a Lenovo laptop or something. And I would show up to meetings and I would look a certain way and I would crank open the big laptop. And you could just see it in people's faces. They're like, nah. And I know that a lot of this is probably placebo on my own part. But seeing whenever I bought like a MacBook, and a pair of like Doc Marten shoes that made me feel like really creative and like a little bit of a hipster. I remember like walking into a meeting, pulling out my Apple logo laptop and just instantly feeling like, oh, I can charge like 20% more. And the only thing that changed was probably me. It was probably just my own mindset, my own confidence, my own insecurity. But that still had a real world effect because of how I reacted and how I carried myself, despite whether or not it had any effect on the people I was actually meeting. So I think it's a very interesting point.
And you make a good point about like, this is individual to the person. And that's what I really encourage as a man, just to take a step back and to think about this. I think we live in a world in which a lot of men we're not judged as harshly as women are. I have 4 daughters. I see it in the sense of women oftentimes hold each other to a very high standard when it comes to presentation, when it comes to image. Maybe it's cultural, maybe it's genetic. I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit of both. But with the men, it's not pressed upon. But I do think when you look at hierarchies and you look at how men judge each other, I think, you just see it in nature all the time. Like, I think Jordan Peterson talked about lobsters and how they don't actually fight. What they do is they measure each other up. And we see this with other animals as well, from wolves to, gorillas. They try to avoid the physical because that could result in injuries on both sides. Instead, it's like, hey, if you see a guy, he's got tattoos, he's got, he's a pretty big guy. He looks like he spends time in the gym or at least the MMA club. He looks like he could be packing a knife in his boots. You wouldn't want to get kicked by them. You're just not going to go up, and no matter how hungry you are, you're not just going to go grab his food. He has set up, so he's wearing black, which is an aggressive color. All of a sudden, like, this guy is saying, and he's eating his food. It's like, don't mess with me. Not that you would mess with a small person who could probably maybe do the same thing, but all of these things, I think, play into a very primal, what form of communication of you stay out of my way, I'll stay out of your way. You give me respect, I'll give you respect. And it's something that's playing out every single day in society because we got to make these split-second decisions. And I do like men to be able to use style as, again, to give themselves a leg up.
So after the military, how did you get into business? And then how did you start getting into the online sphere that we find ourselves in now?
Yeah. The University of Texas has a great program where combat vets, it's called the Hazelwood Act, can actually go to state schools for free. So I picked up my MBA at the University of Texas. I picked up a job right out of there. That didn't work out. I was fired within a few months. And then I realized I wanted to start my own deal. So I started an online custom clothier, hence why you still see tons of clothing behind me. But I realized very quickly my skills and passion where I really liked was creating content online. So I started writing blogs. This is back 2007. And I still write my blog still does very well today and gets over 1 million visitors. But our YouTube channel is really where we started having impact. And we started that in about 2011, took it serious in 2012. And so for over a decade, that YouTube channel has continued to be able to reach and affect men. Now we've probably got about 5 YouTube channels. I've got them in different languages. I have a fragrance channel. I've got a number of other businesses, like I got a grooming. We got into physical products. So I have a grooming business called Vitaman. We have a fragrance company called Mission Fragrances, where I talk about leveraging the science of scent. And yeah, we sell info products. And so it's one of those things, as your business grows, you find little avenues off of it that could be money makers, and you realize those could be businesses in of themselves. And most recently, now I'm on Skool. So I'm really enjoying, and I think that I see what AI is doing to blogs. My blog is suffering a bit as well. I see what, with the future of this, but one thing I don't think AI can do very well, or not, at least maybe for another 5 to 10 years, is communicate with it and really provide the community that I see on Skool. And I think it goes back to an interview that Sam Ovens was talking about, how he saw the most powerful thing with the people in his classes was the community, and how he had groups of people. He had, I think, 2 couples marry out of his communities. And I'm like, that is a tight connection when you literally find your spouse in a community. And I want to be able to replicate that, because we've started communities here or there over the last 15 years in business. I've still got a wish list member. There are older ones out there that were built on WordPress. I remember the days of forums, before that, Yahoo groups, all these things. So you've seen community is nothing new. And I don't think Skool is reinventing the wheel here, but they did bring something. I think it's playful. It's fun. It's easy to use. And immediately when I saw some of the growth rates on some of the other groups, I joined, I think, Skool back in October or November. And I keep a private group, which is just me and about 110 of my business friends. It's called Thunderboard. It's a hidden group. We just do it because I used it as a CRM system, and I wanted to be able to easily communicate. But because I did that, I could see on Discover these other communities. And I'm like, man, these things are growing. They're getting big fast. And then it dawned on me that I should be taking my groups, which are dormant, not doing crap, over on Facebook and move them over here to Skool. And that's what I'm in the process of doing.
Very cool. And we mentioned it at the very top of the show, like your engagement rate is through the roof. So, inside every Skool community, there's a leaderboard system, and the highest level is level 9. And I think whenever level 9 was invented, it was like, no one is ever going to get that. Like, it's just not possible. Like, the number of likes that a person has to get inside a community to reach level 9.
Yeah. And we had a guy reach
so
it in less
high.
than 3 months. So
yeah, and you have multiple people in that situation.
Yeah.
So you have,
it's a problem.
You have even
now.
the biggest names on the platform, like looking at you and they're like, what is this guy doing that he's able to get such high engagement rates? So,
well, I'm going to share
what are you doing?
Best tips. So yeah, I've got probably like 20 different tips. And after this, if anyone wants to reach out to me, you know, I'm more than open. I'm pretty reachable. Just type my name in and yeah, you'll go through the contact form. But, I think, you know, so first up, I actually went in and so there's, you know, the Skool community, there's the Skool games community, there's the old Skool affiliate one, which still has action on it. I went in and I actually watched the courses that you guys have put together. So Sam has done a number of interviews. I do feel that there's a lot of information out there and most people don't go watch this because it actually, we live in a world in which you're used to instant gratification and being able to get what you want in less than 30 seconds. You are going to have to, I think if you want a successful group, go back and the gold is in, you know, there was a woman that Sam interviewed about a year ago, blonde. She was just talking about straight community and she dropped so many great nuggets in that one. And I'm just watching this, writing things down, but she really talked about authenticity, that the group needs to be real. And I see so many people coming in and thinking that they can just throw a group out there with a fancy name, maybe even come up with a fancy little logo, and that everyone's going to jump in and want to join. And it's a lot more complicated than that. So, you know, if you're ready, I can start just going through, you know, my list.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull this up. Let me make sure that I have the right person before I link it.
Yep, that's her.
Yeah, cool. I'll put a link to this in the show notes then. I'll just pop that right there so I remember. And Antonio, yes, sir. Over to you. I'm ready.
Okay. So I think the first thing is to clearly define the goals and purpose of your community. I mean, this is something you need to know. Where are you going to take this? What's again, you don't need to know a year from now, but you do need to have a plan, even though it's going to change. I think one thing I picked up in the Marine Corps is that the plan is nothing, but planning is everything. And thinking through. So for each of my groups, I usually have about a 25 to 30 page plan of action, which I will share. If anyone reaches out to me, I'll give you my plan of action for my groups. This is something I don't put together. I've actually got an assistant, and I've actually got three assistants in the Philippines that have been training on how to basically run my school groups. Because another thing is I've got 7 kids, so I don't have time to spend. I mean, I do spend some time on school, but I can't spend more than 30 minutes a day. So my team has to be in there and they're engaging like this. But one of the first things we ask is, what is the purpose? Where are we going? What's the direction? So with our first real school community, the one we opened up, we thought, okay, well, we've got an existing one on Facebook that's got 50,000 members. So we know we could probably get to that. Let's just call it the RMRS community group, Real Men, Real Style. So that one was just general style. That one, the goal was to simply bring people over, see what they talk about. And what was cool about this group is I could tell that they zero it out on certain topics. Fragrance was big because we talk a lot about, watches are big. So these two things right here, you're taking notes on. And I looked at it as I was gathering intel. So we immediately noted that there should be 2 other groups. We're launching our watch group here in about a week, June 3rd. Then we've already launched the fragrance group, which you saw, and that one has now, like 1,200 members and is number 12 right now, I think, on Discovery. So, you find these little niche areas that you could create subgroups. And I'll talk about my monetization path a little bit later and why I'm creating all these free groups. But the way I look at it as a content creator is once you get people together, and if you can bring them together, you can always figure out a way to monetize. But I also have physical products, which I can sell them, and we will have paid groups, coming in soon. But I'll talk about the end of the interview, the physical products that we sold, and we did a small launch and we were able to sell, over $10,000 in fragrance just from our group of just under 1,000 people. So that was pretty cool.
Incredible.
Yeah. So you've defined what you want. I spend a lot of time on the abouts. People can go check out my groups and they can say, we're really clear who we are and what we stand for. Because with that, you want to know who you do not want in your group. And this will pay dividends later. the Brotherhood of Scent. Now, I love women. Like I'm married to one. I've got, 4 daughters, but in the Brotherhood of Scent, it's pretty clear it's a brotherhood. It's about men being able to talk about men's fragrances. Now, do we let in women? Of course we do. But, one of the biggest problems that I see so many people in these other groups talking about is I've got all these spammers in my group. I've got, how do I keep out the spammers? And the spammers, so we ask, and this is another 3 very deeply open-ended questions whenever somebody joins. And these 3 open-ended questions I think are a little bit funny, are a little bit, they're tongue-in-cheek, but they're very specific to our group. So if you want to join one of our fragrance group, we're going to ask you why fragrance? What does it mean to you? In the past, we've asked people, what is their favorite fragrance? Tell me about it. Now, you can tell a lot about whether somebody is into fragrances, how they answer those questions. We even ask point blank, are you a spammer? Do you solemnly swear not to spam in my group? And you would not believe how many spammers, just write, they give me the heart, or they give me, they don't answer it correctly. And you're just like, I've even told people the correct answer is no, I am not a spammer. Still, so the spammers, they're using autos, bots, or something like that. And you start to be able to see these patterns, but people that are real give you these authentic answers. And that is the next key point to making sure you get a really engaged group, is to bring in the right type of people. You've got to say no. You've got to know what you stand for, the type of people you want to attract, and only let in the right people. Now, when we launch a group, another thing that we do is we build up a separate email list. I see a lot of people just launch a group on Skool and it's a ghost town, and they get maybe 1 or 2 other people to join, but they end up quitting after a month whenever they got to pay the $99 because they're like, I only got 5 people and no one's engaged. So what I do, and I usually give myself, it depends on the size of your audience, how much you want to pay, maybe to hijack somebody else's audience, which I always think is a great idea. Just simply, pay an influencer and they would, maybe promote your group, or simply, find a way to build up an email list. And so we create an email list of anywhere. For our fragrance group, we had about 1,000 people on that list, of which 500 converted into the group. It took us about a couple weeks to build up that list. And again, I just used my own organic means. So I know not everyone has that at their disposal, but again, you can use paid traffic. You can actually go into groups. A lot of times, I find that other influencers are open to getting, a secret tip that I don't see anyone talking about is YouTube, community tabs. You can link directly from community tabs. And if you find an influencer that talks about what you want to, and he's not leveraging his community tab, offer him, hey, $100 to be able to, post about me in your community tab and share what I'm doing. And you can put a link right in there. And that would probably, again, if you do it correctly, it could yield you, 50 to 100 emails. Point being is we build that up. We start emailing these people, letting them know we're about to open it up, and we do a launch. And so when you get 300 to 400 people in on day one that have been excited and are ready to start talking about fragrance or watches, all of a sudden you really get that momentum going. Now, before they've even come into the group, I've usually let in 5 to sometimes 15 early like the early guys. These are guys that have shown me from previous groups, our main group, that they like to post a lot and that they care about these particular items. These guys have gone in and they've created seed posts. So when somebody walks into the community, it's not empty. And so they've got everything in there. In addition, we are very particular about the categories. So you get, I think, 10 options on Skool. We make sure each of these categories, we've selected them. We make sure that they're short because you don't really want long categories because you want people to be able to see all the different options that they can post. Then you want to make sure, and even if you're doing this yourself, and I did this on my first group, I went in and created like 5 example posts. I put very clearly, this is an example post about how to talk about your watch of the day. And I would post, it was tongue in cheek. It was fun. But by seeding things, basically when the crowd comes in, they've got categories. They've got post examples of what they should be doing. So it's a lot easier for them. Now, On top of that, and this is again, all preparation work. And I think this is the key to success of a good group is the preparation and that work that you do that nobody sees. We make sure that as soon as somebody joins, the autoresponder message, which everyone should have access to, I believe that's one of the 4 or 5 like first little plugins that are there. Our autoresponder gives them the rules of the group, and it also tells them the first actions that they should be doing. I encourage people, fill out your bio, put a real picture there, and make sure to introduce yourself on the introduction post. We have one post that we keep pinned up at the top. It's introductions. People, it's like, hey, how to do it. I do the first intro myself, and I explain them exactly how to introduce themselves, examples of things to say. And when they do it, they're going to get an instant reward, because this is what one of my VAs goes in every single day. And they are going in, because you can go to the bottom, they like and they engage, and they help take that person from a level 1 to a level 2 to sometimes even a level 3 with that one introduction post. And
very good.
And it feeds, and it's really big. When all of a sudden they're getting notifications from Skool that they are a level 2, they're a level 3, they get excited, especially when they see the next part. Now you got 9 levels.
That
here.
is wicked smart, to quote Goodwill Hunting. That is very, very clever. Yeah, I like that a lot.
So you know about the 9 levels. We're hoping there's going to be a 10th soon, but you want to make sure the first 5 levels you've got them loaded with little prizes. And I really appreciate how Skool has come in and now allows us at level 2, you can start to chat. But we create all these different levels in the classrooms, and you don't want to have just one big course. I like to give out lots of courses so that they see, oh, wow, if I get to a level 3, I get these 5 courses, or I get these 3 things. I get to level 4, I get this. I get to level 5, I get this. Oh, and at level 9, I give away I give away my Mission fragrance set, which we sell retail for that 3 fragrance set for $600. So we give that one at level 9. No one has reached that yet in our fragrance group, although a guy's getting close. In our other RMRS group, our regular group, we've had a guy reach level 9. We've got like 5 guys on the way to level 9 at level 8. So it's kind of, I'm going to have to be shelling out. I mean, but what I'm giving away there is an information product that it's just going to be a bit more of my time because it's coaching and things like that. But making sure at each prize level, you've got something that you give away, that right there is big. Now, one of the things that we give away at the prize level is we have giveaways. So I have, as you can see here, a lot of clothing. I've got a lot of fragrances. I've just got a lot of things floating around here. And I realized, you know what? Instead of me donating things, because as an influencer, a glut, and this is a good problem to have, I have so many pairs of shoes and like style stuff. I used to just donate it. But then I realized, you know what? If I packaged it up, I could send it out to my audience. And these guys, every single week, we do a giveaway. We've got a consistent time we do it, which is on Tuesdays. So everyone knows to look forward to. We started setting up routines in our groups. So every Tuesday we have a giveaway, and then we close it up on Friday mornings. Now these giveaways, and it's all about goodwill. It's about people engaging and talking to each other and supporting each other. It's about the quality of the comment. Again, we laid out really clear rules as to how those giveaways work. But those giveaways have been very, very good for us. Physical product. A quick tip. This is something I stole from the military. You can see it right here. I'll pull it out. It's called a challenge coin. So we give this, I think, to level 6 guys.
Is that an RSM? Oh, look at this.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. There it is. And on the back is a quote. So these cost me $2, $3 to get made. I make 1,000 of them over in China. What I find is that people absolutely love things like this, and I can ship it in the post for just a couple dollars, non-machinable. So the cost isn't like a package or anything. And we give this to guys at level 6. If you've got a higher end service, I've got higher end coaching. I've got physical products. If anyone in marketing knows, the holy grail is somebody's physical address, because you can send flyers, and we send them a handwritten letter. My son and my nephew actually write the letters. I sign them, but hey, got to put the kids to work.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
But we send out these letters, and here's what happens in the group. Because we're sending out these physical letters, And we're sending out these coins because people are now buying. And by the way, in the fragrance group, they're buying our fragrances, which we, are higher end and stuff. They're actually posting pictures in the community. So this is like, if you have anyone that sells physical products, or you sell physical products, but you also do community, this is where it gets really interesting, is literally people are throwing up testimonials in our groups, and there's all this social proof underneath because other people are saying, oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to get to it. And you can follow up with these people that are commenting, that are saying, I can't wait to buy this. You could follow up with them if you're really sophisticated and say, hey, how about we make that a reality? Are you interested? I can get you this deal. I can make this happen. And that's what my assistants are doing, is they're going in, and we're always looking at ways we can better. Again, I think good sales is where you're actually helping people and you're getting them a deal. You're delivering to them what they want. We're not forcing anything on anyone, but we are there to be able to jump in and to be able to serve people if they ask. And, yeah, that's what I look at these groups as. Yes, great community. People get tons of free interaction and they feel good about them, but it's also, there's so many different ways to sell. I think that these paid communities are just one way. Physical products, things outside of this, there's so many other ways that you can monetize in these groups.
Well, even just you saying that, Antonio, like I'm thinking like, imagine Nike has a community. Imagine like Patagonia has a community, like where they get their die-hard people in that space, and they just, churn through the engagement and the passion. Like it's incredibly powerful. And I had a hunch, like before every single interview, like I like to do like a little bit of visualization. And like the kind of sense I had before this one is that we're going to learn a lot of advice and wisdom that you have experienced in the real world, in the physical world, that we can apply to our online communities. And I think, even just listening to the way that you're thinking about physical products and the handwritten letters, it's like, this is stuff that's been around for hundreds, if not more years in the sales world, in the marketing world, where it's like, it's all about establishing strong connections with people.
Yeah. Yeah. I love electronic stuff, but my videos get dated. And I think that courses can become dated. But when you send somebody something timeless, and a year from now, they find this on their desk, and it needs to be good. Like you don't like, it's got our logo, but it really talks about honor, courage, commitment. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in challenge and controversy. So it's motivational and something that a guy will carry with him probably, for years. And I love the idea of taking Skool, not just, get the online, but bringing it offline to them.
Yes.
So that it can motivate them, and then they work off each other and it brings them back. Because what I've loved about Skool for me personally, and why I'm such a big fan of it, is I'm spending less time on the destructive social media platforms like Facebook, which are just always trying to sell me things, trying to get me, put news in front of me that I don't want to see. I love the Skool groups because I know I can control what information I'm consuming and the kind of people I'm surrounding myself with. And so all of my groups, we really want to keep them positive. We want to keep them engaging. We have a bigger mission. Style is cool and image is important, but I really want to build up better men in this world. I think that is going to help transform and make this world a better place. Like I said, with my kids, I'm always thinking, who are they going to marry? Who are they going to partner with? And I have indirectly, maybe I can have an effect on that by creating a better place through my group. Now, one thing I skipped that I wanted to go back to how to be able to create a highly engaged community is you've got to have foundational rules. There's a little religion. It's called Christianity. It has 10 commandments. Actually, I think Judaism actually follows them too. But those 10 commandments built an entire religion. So I cut it down to 4 to build my Skool group. And I'm really clear, it's just simply, first up, it's about showing people respect. And if anyone wants to go over there, we post them right there on the outside of our groups before you join. I post them actually in 4 places. Yeah, right there. Our community rules. No asking for money. That's my job. I will ask for money. It is something I am very clear to people. Like, we're not here to create a group for you to sell in. So respect, no asking for money, stay on topic. So this is key. And why I think there's so much opportunity is because the nicher down you can go. And I've seen this on YouTube. I've seen this on Facebook. It used to be you could create a general group and everyone would show up. Now you've got to, I think, start getting a little bit more specific. Instead of going for another fitness group, create a fitness group for women over the age of 50 that have gone through menopause and are wanting to live their best life after a divorce. If you create a group like that, you're going to get less people, but they are going to be so willing to listen to your message. Again, we list it right there again. You know, I repeat this stuff. And when you get your automated message from me, it's listed again, because I don't want people saying that they didn't see it. And I repeat it in the video if you go watch the video.
I'm going to be honest, Antonio, like the first time I came across your community, I was like, flip me, there's a lot of rules here. But then I saw the engagement, I saw the ranking, and I saw how powerful it was. And I was like, like we actually enjoy being told, like, this is the boundaries, this is how, like, the expectation is for you to show up. And like, it clearly works. And we've talked to a lot of people that are struggling with like, I don't know, like how to get my community engaged, or like there's so many spammers, and you don't have that problem. And so that's just like a very interesting observation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an American. I love my freedom. In fact, I used to tell my real estate agent when I was looking for land, I want to be able to walk out in my underwear at my new house and shoot my guns. Like that's the kind of, but here's the deal is I do want rules and regulations, because if I wanted complete anarchy, I'd move to Somalia. Nothing against the Somalis over there, but if you are familiar with, I mean, I don't want there need to be guidelines. That's why roads work so well. We have a side of the road that we drive on. Now we can break the rules, and it's fun sometimes to drive a little bit faster, go off-roading, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I give you 4 rules. They are rules though that you need to be followed, and we do kick people out. In fact, another tip to get great engagement is to once every 2 months post that you're going to kick out. I'm going to kick out 500 people over the next couple. Yes, I will, because they're not doing anything. They're dead wood on these groups. Like nothing against some of these bigger groups. But when I see a group with over 100,000 people that has very low interaction, I'm like, get rid of those 100,000 and keep the 5,000 that are interacting. And it's going to be a much healthier group. If anyone that builds up an email list, we all know this because we got to pay for those emails. So that's one thing that Skool, I don't want, I don't think they're going to adjust it. But when you tell people you're going to kick them out for being inactive, guess what? A lot of people all of a sudden become inactive. But don't focus in on your inactive people. Take a step back. What we noticed is this interesting thing, that 1% of our people account for almost 50% of our engagement. 4% of our people account for about 60-something%, and 20% account for 80. See what I did there? I worked backwards, went from Pareto principle to deep Pareto to deeper Pareto. So anyone that, it's the 20% of the 20% of the 20%. Now, obviously you don't know who that 1% is when you're starting off. So get in a good group of excited people. But very quickly, you're going to notice you got 10 people that are just all over the place. And that is friggin' awesome. I've got people in my group that I see that they are interacting. They have 1,400 engagements a day for one person. And I'm like, I've talked with them. I'm like, making sure they're healthy, making sure they're not. Initially, I thought some of these people were bots. So we actually reached out to them because I wanted to talk to them and make sure they're real people. They were. But they've got interesting stories. They're loving what they're in. They'd go join other groups and they're super active. But what I realized very quickly is to focus in on my winners. So if you've got a group of 25 people or 250 people, don't focus in on the 200 that aren't doing anything. Focus in and individually message and congratulate, send out gifts to, thank personally, get on the phone with the 20 people, the 30 people that actually are in there all the time. Because guess what?
Wow.
You're just going to supercharge them. They're going to continue to keep going, and they're going to attract and encourage others to start getting to their level. When I see somebody is starting to engage at 30, and you can, again, what I love about Skool is I can go look at people and I can see how many times they've been engaging. If I see somebody is progressively starting to engage more, then we send out a personal message to them. My assistant helps me out with this. And we just thank them for being awesome. We ask them how the group's going. We treat them like a human being. We treat them with respect. And those people oftentimes grow into super engagers. And these super engagers, these feed the group. And that's why I think my engagement on my communities are so high, is we've built up these super engagers who all of a sudden lift the entire community.
This is a pretty big question to kind of bring the plane into land, but a lot of your experience in the military, you were promoted, you were in charge of a platoon. I'm not sure if that's the correct term because I'm not familiar with the US military, but you know, a big part of that is that you're responsible for the morale of your guys.
Yes.
And I'm just curious, like, how did that experience transition into what you're doing today in terms of building online camaraderie, encouraging people, building people up, particularly whenever people are feeling that they're worst? You know, your job was to inspire them and to encourage them. So I'm curious kind of what the transferable skill was there.
I have to thank my team and the people. And this is one thing. So in the military, you don't have much choice of the people that are in your platoon. You are assigned this. You are stuck together. You are going into combat together. So the analogy I would say there is you've got to, I think if you really want to have a long-term sustainable group, you really want to get maybe an assistant. You want to get somebody that can help you out here, and you want to invest in them and help get them up to speed. That's been key. It's been pivotal for me to be able to sustain it on this group. Because again, I've got a life. I've got other things going on. And I know that, but I've got, you know, Alyssa, I've got Max, I've got Jane, I've got Yuri. These guys are in there engaging in the group, and they know that I've got their back. They know that, yes, some people hear that the customer is always right. That's not true. My employees are always right. And I take care of them and I make sure that they are in there. But yeah, we don't, you know, we treat people with respect. We do sometimes, I'm not saying we give up on people, but we do realize there are some people that maybe are beyond our help, and we've got to recommend they go maybe find someplace else. But a big part of that is limiting what we can do. I know I maybe didn't answer that question the best, but yeah.
Hey, the answer you give, the guest is always right. That's what I have to say.
Yeah.
Final question then. So it's been clear based on what you shared today, and also I asked around a few people on the team, you know, anything about Antonio, anything interesting. And gift giving is something that came up multiple times. And I'm just curious, like, where does that culture, that practice for you come from of like giving gifts? And I would love to know what is one of the best gifts that you've ever received. I'll not ask you for the exact best gift ever, but something that comes to your head or something that someone has personally gifted to you that meant a lot.
Yeah. You know, gifts are something I find that as someone that owns a physical product business, I've got systems in place. I like sending them out because I know not everybody has access to nice fragrances. Not everyone has access to our challenge coins or things like that. I do love sending flowers to friends, to people that are down. I just sent out care packages to my family. I do. Not everyone, you know, there's a great book talks about love languages. Different people have different love languages. I know for me, I'm not really a big gift receiver, but I do know that people love to receive them. So I love to give them. I love to surprise people. You know, if you've got an accountant, sending flowers to your accountant during tax season, my accountant picks up the phone when I call her, you know, because she's like, you're the only person that sends me flowers. I think it's just simply treating people the way they would want to be treated. If you're, you know, for the men listening, give flowers to your wife, to your girlfriend, to your sisters at any point. You can you're in a store, grab flowers, because the day you forget on their birthday, guess what? You've got that free chit. You got that free pass you always, you know, you normally always get them to me. That's the way I'm like getting ahead on here. But the best gift,
like an insurance policy.
Exactly. And I find that it makes you a bit memorable. It's something that is rare nowadays. It helps you stand apart in a busy world in which people are being bombarded with. Everyone's always trying to take from everyone else. It's really nice, especially and it shows you're in a position, I think, of strength as well, when you can give. But the best gift, I think, one of the best gifts I ever received was from a good friend of mine who came to visit me. And I was having trouble in my garage and this guy went to MIT, he was in the Navy, good friend of mine. He's like, okay, well, let's just rebuild like your entire shelving system. So we spent 2 days, and I mean, this was like his vacation, but we just rebuilt parts in the garage. And it was a gift of his time. It was a gift of his expertise. And I think things like that, we all have something like that we can give, whether it's mowing your neighbor's yard because, they just haven't been able to get to it. And you don't know what's going on in their life. Yeah, that yard annoys you, but just go over and get it done. Say, hey, mind if I do this? It feels good to give. And, I feel like with our groups and our communities, you should feel like you're creating an environment in which you're giving them happiness. You're giving them a place of that they feel safe, where they can express themselves and they feel heard. So give them that thumbs up, give them that comment, because you don't know where that person's at today. And this could be the difference maker in their lives.
Well, this has been an extremely valuable gift that you've given to the Skool community, Antonio. Genuinely, like all this stuff, your own story, all of the insights around engagement, I think are going to make a lot of people a lot of money, help people reach more people, transform more lives. And you also you give me the gift of being able to do that late night talk show thing. We have a suit on top, you've got shorts on the bottom. So, genuinely, man, really. Yeah, Ireland's having a heat wave, bro. Like we're freaking out. It's like 20 degrees Celsius. What's that in Fahrenheit? 20 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit.
Well, if anyone wants to follow up after this, I've got, I only got to half my list. So, but I know that we've got a time limit and we're constantly building onto our SOPs and our lists. But I don't have a course. I don't have anything I'm going to try to sell you. But you do have to reach out to me via my contact form, because I'm not always, I'll try to reach out on Skool, but usually I just like meeting cool, interesting people. And so that's the only cost, is that I may ask about you and what you're doing.
So awesome. Yeah. So it's 68 Fahrenheit, which I know isn't a lot for you Americans, but for us, it's like, that's summer holiday territory, man. There'll be a link to Antonio's Skool, both the schools, in the description of wherever you're listening or you're watching. And Antonio, I know you said you're super open to people reaching out to find out more. So I really appreciate you doing that. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you.